Hey, you've summoned a lesser maker. I'm experimenting. One of the ideas I've had for the 1000 subscriber board was a shipyard. I made a template. It's just a basic shape. We're going to be cutting that out with some EVE PVC or expanded PVC board. This material is not easy to cut. It takes like 3 to 5 passes for each timber. I did make a jig that has 3 X-Acto blades on it, and so I was able to score each one and basically copy that shape like 3 times. After that, I would carve the piece. That just gave it some angles to make it look like it was hewn lumber. Basically, I'm matching 2 of these together, and we're just trimming off one of the sides and hot gluing it together. You might see that there's a piece that has a 3rd piece like jutting out the front, and I ended up cutting that piece off later in the build, mostly because I wanted to experiment with a cross section. And I just hot glued these together with like a 1-inch timber in between each section, and I reinforced it with super glue. And this thing turned out pretty strong. The timbers aren't very straight, so I glued 3 together and then the other 3 together, and that just straightened everything out. After that, I made a platform for the middle. This is going to be the lower deck. I couldn't think of a different way of mounting this, so I did some matchsticks and just glued bottom platform to those matchsticks. That just gave it some more surface area to glue to. And after that was held in place, I was able to glue some more popsicle sticks for outside railings, because this ship, in my head, is being assembled, and then Mordheim kind of went to hell, then it wasn't being assembled anymore. That's just kind of the idea that I had for this. I saw that in some like medieval period or whatever, some shipyards had like something to lean the boat on, as well as some struts. I decided to experiment with one side where the channel was being leaned up against it, and then using the struts on the other one, just to see which one I like better, because I'm kind of thinking this might be a cool idea for our board, and if I can experiment with this one, I can expound upon it later and kind of decide which way I like better. Now I'm adding that top railing. So now I'm planking the side of it, and as I was doing this, I was kind of running my head like, what else can I add here? Luckily, I have a Discord server that you guys can join, and I kind of asked you guys on there what I should add. And so Leroy, one of my Patreon members, thank you for supporting me, I appreciate it. He suggested some net and like rigging, and so I got an orange package that we got this week. I'm just going to be using that for some net. So this is a plastic like net. I don't know if this is how oranges are shipped everywhere, but I just kind of heat shrunk it so that it was kind of rigid. And then I took some pipe cleaners, I burned off all the fuzziness, and then I'm going to be using that as rope. This is something I've done before for my pirate. It was like summon a zombie or undead, and this looks really convincing as rope, and so I was happy to use it again because this is kind of a nice thing to have in the back pocket. Now I made a Mod Podge spackle mix I added some gray paint to it as well. And I'm going to be smearing this all over the styrofoam especially. But I decided that I was going to try to make it look like the planks were swelling and that they just aren't in good shape anymore. So on the edges especially, I'm kind of caking on that Mod Podge mix. But then I'm also streaking it along the board. And I'm adding some quote-unquote knots in the board as well, in the middle, just to kind of accentuate that this is wood. This actually worked really great, and the bonus part of this is there wasn't like sawdust everywhere from wire brushing things. Right here you can see I got my shirt in the mail. This is a shirt I'm selling for the 1,000 subscribers. That's in the link below. Let's cover it up with an apron and start painting this thing. Base coated this with a dark brown spray paint with a tan paint. I dry brushed all the planks and the ropes, and I just went to town until it was more or less lighter than anything else. And then I have a homemade wash that I made maybe 3 years ago or whatever. I added some ink to it this time, and I just drenched this whole thing with a wash. Washes are things I kind of neglect to use just because they're messy and stuff like that. But in this case, because of all the texture paste that I had used, it really worked very well. And I need to start doing this more often because it just turned out really, really great. I think the results speak for itself. I can really see a whole board go like this. So if this is something you'd like to see expanded upon, feel free to leave that below. As we're looking at the final results, I'd just like to thank my Patreon members, Leroy, Moonbad, Feder, and Caracal. Thank you so much. These guys support me for $2 a month. It's not that much, but it does make a huge difference when I'm making a video every week. This helps close that gap in between Mordheim boards and stuff like that. Speaking of Mordheim boards, all the STLs from the last Mordheim board build are on Patreon for free, not for only Patreon members. So if you're interested, if you're working on a Mordheim board and you need STLs for windows or for fences or some monuments and statues, those STLs are free for you to download. So go check them out. I did a poll this week and it was kind of unanimous almost that people either weren't aware of them or hadn't even looked yet. So go check those out. They're free, and I spent a lot of time on them. And if you'd like to help keep those free and just support the channel, it's only $2 a month, and it makes a huge difference. So thank you again. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you have a good one.